The Hanley was deployed to break the blockade surrounding Charleston's harbor, and its crew completed their mission, signaling that they were returning, but they never came back. The H.L. Hanley is more than a Civil War relic, it is a symbol of innovation, courage, and mystery. Historians and enthusiasts alike have debated the fate of the vessel and its men for decades. Its story begins with ambition and danger and a daring plan destined for history. This small iron vessel was designed to strike fear into the heart of the Union Navy and to show the world the potential for undersea warfare. Just over 40 feet in length and a bare 4 feet wide, it took 8 men into one of the boldest naval attacks in history. On February 17, 1864, the waters off Charleston Harbor were smooth, almost glassy. Confederate forces were increasingly desperate to break the Union blockade, and the Hanley represented their best hope. Its target, the USS Housatonic, was a wooden steam sloop with a complement of 155 patrolling the harbor. The submarine was of a simple, yet revolutionary, design. Inside its narrow hull, the crew sat shoulder to shoulder, manually turning a crank that powered the single propeller. Lieutenant George E. Dixon commanded the vessel, quietly guiding it toward its target while overseeing delicate operations that defined the mission. Every detail counted. The sub was hand-cranked, powered only by human energy, with an iron hull that made it stealthy but fragile. A single mistake could cost all the lives aboard. To the Hanley crew, there was no room for mistakes. The attack was swift, silent. Under the cover of night, the faintest churning of the crank broke the water's surface. There was a spar-mounted torpedo at the bow, designed to ram and detonate against the hull. Primitive by today's standards, it was revolutionary in 1864. They saw a flash of light, heard the heavy, muffled explosion, and the Housatonic shuddering violently as water came in, sinking the vessel within minutes. Instantly, 5 sailors were killed, and the rest scrambled to the lifeboats. History was made. The Hanley became the first submarine to sink an enemy ship in combat, but victory came at a cost. The Confederate submarine did not return. Onshore observers saw its signal light, a blue lantern indicating a safe return, and some reported 2 lights hinting at survival. Yet by morning, the Hanley had vanished. Speculation ran rampant. Some thought the explosion damaged the sub, others suggested it was pulled under by the sinking Housatonic or trapped by suction. Union sailors claimed bubbles and debris surfaced long after the attack. The truth remained elusive. 7 crewmen's names were documented: Lieutenant Dixon, Frank Collins, James A. Wixes, Joseph Rigaway, C. Lampin, Arnold Becker, and 2 whose identities were lost. These volunteers knew the dangers. Previous tests had claimed lives, but still chose to board. For over a century, the submarine lay hidden beneath Charleston's coastal waters, its story nearly mythical, a fragment of naval lore. In 1995, Drive E. Lee Spence and Newmer discovered the wreck resting on its starboard side, buried under silt and sediment. Remarkably preserved, its iron hull remained intact, barnacles clinging to the surface, and artifacts and traces of fabric survived, whispering stories of the past. Divers immediately understood the significance. Recovery was careful and painstaking. Engineers and archaeologists designed a truss system to lift the sub without collapsing it. On August 8, 2000, the Hanley broke the Atlantic surface for the first time in 136 years, witnessed by crowds along Charleston Harbor. The submarine was placed in a chilled saltwater transport tank and moved to the Warren Lash Conservation Center. Conservators began removing concretion, sand, shell, and corrosion hardened over a century. Each layer revealed artifacts, tools, buttons, coins, and more. Inside, forensic experts discovered the crew remains, still seated, with no evidence of panic or escape attempts. It was as if time had frozen the moment they perished. Skeletal remains were well preserved, each skull carefully mapped, photographed, and analyzed. Experts examined bone structure, teeth wear, healed fractures, and signs of labor. Further analysis was needed. Isotope testing showed diet and geographic origins. 4 men had a southern corn-based diet, the others a European diet of wheat and barley, the first clue that the crew was more diverse than thought. Confederate records corroborated the findings. Several men were recent immigrants from Germany, England, and Scandinavia. The Hanley crew was not just local volunteers but an amalgamation tied together by a mission. Facial reconstruction brought them back to life. Skull casts guided forensic artists as layers of clay were built up according to tissue depth markers, with synthetic skin tones, realistic eyes, and hair completing the process. For the first time, the men had faces young, old, determined, one each with a story visible on its features. Public unveiling brought attention and emotional responses. Families reached out seeking connections, though 2 identities remained uncertain. DNA analysis was the next frontier. Months later, one sample yielded a breakthrough. A link to living descendants in Talbot County, Maryland, confirmed Joseph Ridgway's identity. DNA, once thought irrelevant to 19th century history, bridged centuries. Joseph's origin challenged assumptions. He was not a South Carolinian, but from a border state divided in loyalties. This revelation reshaped how historians viewed the Hanley's crew, not just local men, but individuals drawn by expertise and conviction. The reconstructed face of Joseph brought the story full circle. The media spotlighted his mustache, light complexion, and strong features, making his identity synonymous with the Hanley itself, a human face to a mechanical marvel lost at sea. Joseph's confirmation helped to calibrate DNA analysis for the remaining crew members, setting a precedent to connect Civil War remains to modern families. His story underlined the diversity, courage, and complexity of the men who risked everything aboard the submarine. In April 2004, all 8 were given proper burials in Magnolia Cemetery, Charleston. Thousands gathered for the procession, honoring a journey that spanned 140 years, from the ocean floor to their final rest. Flags, horse-drawn caissons, and solemn remembrance paid tribute to the men whose courage had so long been forgotten. The Hanley itself remains preserved under controlled conditions. Tours and displays allow the public to see history firsthand, bridging science and storytelling. DNA, isotopes, and careful forensics turned a century-old mystery into tangible understanding. And yet questions remain. Why did the Hanley never return? Did a blast wave incapacitate the crew? Did mechanical failure play a role? Examination of skeletal evidence suggests instantaneous death, contradicting panic or flooding theories. Conflicting reports of the blue signal light hint that the submarine may have briefly surfaced. Perhaps exhaustion, leaks, or oxygen depletion sealed its fate. Modern modeling and forensic chemistry continue to test these possibilities, narrowing the circle of uncertainty, but never fully eliminating it. The Hanley is more than a tale of war. It's a story about invention, human courage, and how science can reclaim lives lost. The crew represents more than Confederate engineering, it represents resilience, diversity, and the risks that come with exploration. Modern science has transformed the H.L. Hanley from myth to the story of people, not just of a machine, through DNA analysis, isotope testing, and facial reconstruction. Identifying Joseph Ridgway, confirming immigrant crewmen, and giving all 8 a somber burial allows closure to what for over a century was a mystery while providing new avenues of research. The H.L. Hanley remains a story of ingenuity, courage, and that enduring human need to understand history. Its story upsets assumptions, bridges centuries, and reminds us that even in the depths of the Atlantic, lives can be recovered, remembered, and honored. The mystery no more lies in who they were, but in the journey science took to bring them back into light, giving names, faces, and stories to those who had lain silent for 140 years. The legacy of the Hanley stretches far beyond the Civil War, in influencing the design of naval forces, forensic science, historical methodology, and demonstrating how geography, loyalty, and expertise come together to build human history. As researchers continue to probe the Hanli's secrets, the story inspires awe and reflection. Every artifact, every bone, and every DNA strand helps to understand a daring mission, a vanished crew, and the great persistence of history itself. The faces of the men remind us of bravery amid stress, human experimentation, and the unforeseen power of a scientific finding. Their story is now complete with identity, but ongoing research continues to shed more light on every aspect of their journey. From submerged wreck to lab, DNA lab to cemetery, the Hanli story bridges centuries and fastens the bonds between past and present. Joseph Ridgway and his fellow crewmen finally have names, faces, and places in history where they were long absent. Their courage, sacrifice, and story will be remembered, preserved, and honored for generations to come. The H.L. Hanli is no longer just an iron vessel but a vessel of human memory, a bridge across time and a testament to the power of discovery. To solve the mystery, history and science converged. The faces, the DNA, and the burial closed one chapter, but the doors it opened allowed a greater understanding of the past. And the Hanli reminds us that even after a century, the dead can speak if we know how to listen. What does the Hanli teach? Innovation is dangerous. Bravery comes in many forms, and science has the power to recover the human stories lost beneath time and water. Every artifact recovered, every bone analyzed, and every DNA match tells us about men who took risks that we can hardly envision. They remind us that history is not just events, it is people, their choices, and their lives. As you reflect on the H.L. Hanli, consider the mysteries still out there, waiting for the same combination of curiosity, skill, and science to bring them back from obscurity. This story is much more than a Civil War story, it is one of discovery, identity, and remembrance. It proves that even the most mysterious and tragic events can be understood with patience, science, and respect for human life. No longer are the H.L. Hanli and its crew nameless shadows. They are people, heroes, and subjects of study, reminding us that history is never silent. And while the cause of the sinking may never be known with certainty, the human story has been recovered. It has faces and names, and final resting places, none of which will be forgotten again. Ultimately, the H.L. Hanli is a vessel of knowledge, memory, and inspiration, connecting past and present by means of an unbroken chain of curiosity, courage, and science. In the story of Joseph Ridgway, the identification of its crew, and the public celebration, one finds how technology and humanity combine in resolving mysteries which had long been considered lost forever. The tale of the H.L. Hanli remains an enigmatic one, reminding us that history lives, human stories prevail, and that science may literally bring the long-forgotten to light. It is in this triumph of perseverance, blending history, archaeology, and modern science together in the recovery of lives beneath the waves, that a mystery is solved by DNA. Today, as the submarine rests under controlled preservation, it stands literally and figuratively as a monument to those who gave life in service, in innovation, and in daring, a testament to sacrifice and discovery. Today, the Hanli is more than a relic, it is a narrative about humanity, courage, and the timeless pursuit of knowledge. It reminds us of the tenuous line which links life, history, and memory. The faces of the crew, the story of Joseph Ridgway, tell us that even in death, individuals can teach us something about resilience, identity, and the pursuit of discovery. Historians, scientists, and descendants today share an affinity for a vessel and a crew that had become lost to time but have now returned through the precision of modern analysis. The legacy of the H.L. Hanli continues to live in museums, research labs, and the public memory of a nation. This is a story that connects war, science, and human experience in ways never thought possible. While researchers continue to dig into questions that remain unanswered, at the core is a story: the men, their mission, and their sacrifice, which humanizes a piece of naval history once shrouded in mystery. From ocean depths to laboratory tables to cemetery grounds, the journey of the Hunley and its crew is complete in both identity and memory, an extraordinary triumph of historical recovery and scientific achievement.